You're seeing what I'm seeing, right? The president posting about the Obamas like a Klansman at 1 a.m. You see our government transformed into a tool of one man's personal vengeance and power and enrichment. You see the president and his family rake in billions while Americans struggle to make ends meet.
Well, there it is. The 2026 midterms campaign is officially in full swing. That was Jon Ossoff down in Georgia, launching his first rally of the year for his reelection campaign. Now, look, it's no secret that the Democrats are favored to win the midterms. That's historically been the case. The party out of power usually makes a comeback. It's part of that pendulum swinging back and forth. But the argument that I'm going to make in this video is that Jon Ossoff's rally actually shows us that the Democrats are currently positioned to lose in 2028. Because while discontent can potentially propel a short-term comeback, his entire rally was focused on President Trump. I thought Jon Ossoff was running for the Senate. Why didn't he talk about votes he's proud of? Why didn't he talk about leadership positions or who he's actually running against? Instead, this entire 30-minute speech was focused on President Trump. And if Democrats run on anti-Trump and TDS, it's just not going to serve them well in 2028, because at the end of the day, what voters want is solutions. Voters want leaders who think about them, who prioritize their well-being, and are able to come up with policy solutions that make life easier, better, and more prosperous for all of us. This was especially clear when Ossoff started quoting Marjorie Taylor Greene, and while I play this clip, pay close attention to the camera angles here.
Listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene just said about MAGA last week. I'm serious. Marjorie said, quote, "I think people are realizing it was all a lie." Hold on, it gets better. Marjorie said, "What MAGA is really serving in this administration, who they're really serving, is their big donors." Guys, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene talking. She went on. Marjorie said, quote, "The big donors that donated all the money and continue to donate to the president's PACs and are donating to the big ballroom, those are the people who get the special favors. They get the government contracts. They get the pardons." All true. Spot on. Marjorie, welcome to the resistance. It's a big tent. I think
he welcomes her to the resistance. It's a big tent, but he never explains what exactly is holding the Democrat coalition together, because there is nothing holding the Democrat coalition together. It's not about shared values. It's not about a shared ideology, such as constitutionalism, federalism, small government. It has nothing to do with all of that. The only thing that is holding this tent of Democrats together is their hatred for President Trump. So the Democrats can make all the overtures they want to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're even, attempting to peel off Tim Scott right now because of people like Laura Loomer who are attacking Tim Scott. But I don't think it's going to work. And if anything, people are going to see through this. Now, as far as the camera angles, what they're doing is actually really deceptive. And we shouldn't be surprised here, because the Democrat Party, of course, has very close ties with Hollywood. What they're doing is they're making it look like a massive rally, those different camera cuts. It looks like it's in this giant arena, but in reality, it was actually in a pretty small ballroom. This was a picture taken behind the scenes. And what's interesting is you'll notice the vast majority of the crowd is actually behind Jon Ossoff, and only very few are in front of him, and the media is right there. That's where the cameras are. So it makes it look like it's this giant arena. They did all those camera cuts, but a really small room, really small crowd. And hey, to be fair, he's only running for Senate in Georgia, so it's not like this is a presidential campaign. So it's unfair to compare his rally size to, let's say, President Trump's rally size, because it's just a different ballgame. The point I'm making, though, is that the Democrats, they're using social media manipulation. They're using imagery to basically push this movement. If only we had politicians on both sides of the aisle who spend as much time on policy, who spend as much time on reining in the government and making sure that the government actually works for the people and not the other way around, as they do on propelling their own image. By the way, here's a clip from inside the ballroom that actually gives us a sense of the size of the rally. So you can see not many people in front of the stage, and it actually looks a lot smaller in person. This is just a few moments before the rally actually began. And so that really shows you the power of camera angles and what they can do with good editing, good cuts. It's just something to behold. And they actually manipulated the sound a little bit. You'll see that in this next clip.
Now, you remember, we were told that MAGA was for working class Americans. You remember that? But this is a government of, by, and for the ultra-rich. It is the wealthiest cabinet ever. This is the Epstein class ruling our country. They are the elites they pretend to hate. So prices are up, jobs are going away, Medicaid and school lunches are slashed, nursing homes are getting defunded. If you're Steve Bannon, and your pitch was Trump for the forgotten man and woman, how do you sell any of this? Trump was supposed to...
Again, all of it was just bashing President Trump, and he didn't provide any of his own solutions for the country. Now, what's ironic is he wants to talk about the Epstein class, and look, I'll give him kudos. That was a good line. Whoever is his scriptwriter deserves a raise because, hey, look, people are going to fall for that and they're going to eat it up. But there's just one problem. What about the Soros class? Because he's definitely part of the Soros class. Take a look at this. John Ossoff has received donations from both George and Alexander Soros for his campaigns. So talk about, raking in money from billionaires and being beholden to them, being beholden to that Soros class, to the elites who run the country. So that really just fell flat on its face. Now, if you rewatch that clip, what's interesting is you'll notice that the audience cheering was actually louder than John Ossoff's voice. There were a few times where the crowd actually seemed louder than he was. There were a few times where he gave his applause lines, and somehow the crowd was louder than he was. So I decided to do a deep dive on the type of microphone he was using. He was using a dual head cardioid mic, dual because there were two heads of the microphone, and we can actually see the types of polar patterns for each of the different types of microphones. This is basically how they pick up the sound from the head of it. And so when it comes to the cardioid mic specifically, you can see half of the microphone is designed not to pick up sound. It's only supposed to pick up sound directly in front. It's not omnidirectional, and the further away you get from it, the less it picks up. It's supposed to sort of, it's not exactly noise canceling, but you get the idea. Like this microphone, for example, if someone were to knock on my door, you would not hear that. With other mics, you would hear it bleed through. And so the type of microphone he was using should not pick up that much crowd. There might be some bleeding of the sound into it, but not enough for the crowd to actually be louder than he was. And so if you actually rewatch that clip, it's very clear that they had a separate mic, or separate microphones, as in multiple, for the crowd, and that they inserted that into the mix, tuned it up. It's a small detail, and I know in the grand scheme of politics, it doesn't seem like much, but the point I'm making here is that this is a highly produced, a highly choreographed piece that they're hoping clearly to push on social media to jumpstart his campaign. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is some sort of test run, or if he's checking the temperature for a 2028 campaign. I know we've been talking a lot about Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Wes Moore, but this really seems too well produced just for a Senate campaign. By the way, there was a lot of hypocrisy at this event. He actually required all of their attendees to show a government-issued photo ID in order to enter this rally. Of course, he is against voter ID, he is against the SAVE Act, so that is just the height of hypocrisy right there. But it's not as hypocritical as this next statement he made about hospitals shutting down in the state of Georgia. But before we get into that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club, Bama Queen 777, Super Romer, and Lizzie Tom. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you enjoy. But take a look at what John Ossoff said here.
Trump was supposed to fight for the working class. Instead, he's literally closing rural clinics and hospitals to cut taxes for George Soros and Elon Musk.
He's literally closing hospitals. No, those hospitals are actually closing because of something called Obamacare, which, guess what, was passed over a decade ago, well before President Trump became president. I would also like to point out, I'm going to move my screen here, take a look at the bottom there, the O. Does that not remind you of the logo that Obama used during his campaign? Again, I think there's a lot of imagery. It feels like Ossoff is testing the waters. And even though it's because of Obamacare that those rural hospitals are closing, I would like to point out that the One Big Beautiful Bill took those very same hospitals into consideration. In fact, take a look at this. Georgia receives $218.8 million for rural Medicaid enhancement. This is only thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill. But guess who voted against that? That's right, Jon Ossoff. And by the way, it wasn't just $218 million for Georgia, it was $50 billion for rural hospitals all over the United States. As always, though, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, if Jon Ossoff does run in 2028, do you think he's more of a threat compared to Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris, or would you be happy to run against him? Let me know down in the comments below. Honestly, based on what I'm seeing so far, I do think he's more effective at communications than Newsom and Kamala. These attack lines that he's using, even though I 100% disagree with them, I do believe that they will be effective and they're tailor-made for social media, for those clips that are meant to just go viral without any additional context. So I do think he would be a more formidable challenger. But like I said earlier in the video, if Democrats don't have their own solutions, if all their platform is we hate President Trump, and they don't actually provide a vision for the country, a way to make sure that the government serves the interests of all people, I think that whatever momentum they have will be short-lived. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. It is a simple thing to ask for, but it does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.